Hey there, Smite fans, and welcome into a new edition of Player Spotlight. Today, we've got Hunter for Radiant CycloneSpin joining us. Cyclone, thanks for taking the time, man. As per usual, we're going to start at the very beginning. We want to let people get a chance to know you a little bit more. What part of the U.S. did you grow up in? I knew that you're a West Coast guy, but what were you doing on the West Coast, and what was it like growing up?
I was born in Southern California. My county was mostly like Asian dominated, so I grew up around those people, basically.
Were you big into gaming early on in your life, or were you gaming a lot early, or were you playing sports a whole lot when you were younger? What were your interests?
I did actually both. The first game I remember playing, I think it was Pokemon Sapphire and Emerald. And I was into
Okay,
sports. I was a chess player for a large majority of my life. I played basketball. I did taekwondo. Yeah.
that's cool. Little known fact about me, my uncle is actually a Taekwondo master, and I learned from him a little bit. You're looking at a brown belt or what? I have no idea. I have no idea what I got to. Do you know what belt you ended up getting in Taekwondo?
I got to second degree black belt.
Jeez, he could beat people up in game and out of game. Watch out for this guy, man. What about chess? Do you still? I know there's been a big chess resurgence recently on Twitch and that kind of stuff. Have you been getting back into it? What was kind of like your peak chess time?
Um, my peak chess time was like a long time ago. I haven't played chess
Yeah,
like I haven't actually like gotten back into chess in like forever. I'd say like seventh or sixth grade was when I was actually peak playing chess.
man,
Maybe even
we should have
before.
linked. Okay, all right, we should have linked you up with Anatoly, man. He was our chess guy for a while in the SMITEPro League. So you started playing Pokemon. Uh, where did it kind of go from there? Did you start playing a whole bunch of mobile games from there? I know that you're a big mobile gamer now.
Um, I think it came on the PC. I just started playing FPS games, and that's where like kind of my competitive drive came from because shooters are just kind of very competitive inherently. You kind of just want to be the best at what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have any? Do you have any siblings that you were competing with when you were younger?
I have a brother who, he doesn't like trying things at first. So it's like I kind of have to make him play the game, and then he would get hooked into the game and then play it more than me. But I don't think he actually ever got better than me at those games.
Is he younger or older? Because that's important for bragging rights if
Older,
you're better than him. Okay,
older.
yeah, that is peak. That is perfect. If you could be the younger brother beating your older brother at games, then you're in a great spot for sure. Do you remember what FPSs you were starting off on PC?
It was just like very CS:GO ripoff game called like Project Blackout. There was also Crossfire and Combat
Mm-hmm.
Arms. All those like free to play games, FPS games were the ones I mainly played.
Trying to think. I know it was a little. It was definitely later because it was when I first started playing on PC, which was in Smite open beta. Do you ever play Blacklight Retribution? That was a great free to play FPS.
No, I don't think I've ever played it.
Unlucky, missing out. Well, not really because it died pretty quickly, so it couldn't have been that great. But let's focus a little bit more on Smite, I suppose. When did you start transitioning over to playing Smite? How did you find the game?
It was in like July of 2012. I went to San Jose to my cousin's house. I don't actually remember. I think it was for Fourth of July, and he was playing Smite, and he was in the closed beta, so he gave me a key, and I tried it out for the first time, and then that's how it all started.
Did you get hooked instantly, or were you just kind of playing to play with your cousin?
Like I was hooked instantly. I actually remember my first game, but like I played Artemis on like a less than 30 FPS laptop. Actually, maybe 20 FPS, and I believe I viciously fed.
Hey, that's the way it's got to be. It is very interesting to me. We've done a couple of these player spotlights. Artemis is by far the most unanimous, like first god everyone remembers loving or playing. Something about the kit, I suppose, that welcomes people in. When did you? So you keep playing in that point. Were you? I know that you didn't start getting into competitive. It was pretty early. I mean, late 2013 is where the Smite Wiki has your first competitive team. That is Last Resort that it has listed there. Do you remember how you started getting into to playing with a team instead of just playing by yourself?
I don't actually remember because it's a very long time ago, and I
Yeah,
don't really remember most stuff that happened early in Smite. But I think I was
sure.
I just spammed ranked for a lot of it. I think when it was like when it showed like Elo, I was
hmm
top 30 at one point, and I just kind of like playing competitively.
Think you found your calling there in that regard for sure. You got a pretty good career that I do want to go over a little bit here. Did you? I want to ask. Did you start when? I know you did say you don't remember a whole lot about the early years, but were you always a solo laner at the very beginning, or were you playing Hunter then? What was kind of your preferred role at that time?
Um, Back when there was no jungler, I don't actually remember what I was playing. Like I just played whatever I wanted at that point.
Yeah.
I was kind of a Baka one trick, like very early. Then I went to like support, I'm pretty sure. Because on
Hmm.
Last Resort, I was a support player and a solo laner on that team. I think I played mid at one point, which I was not very good at. Yeah,
So you kind of bounced all around. You were
yeah.
doing it all at that point. So when did you start to move in to solo lane? I mean, jungle came in a little bit later, after some tournaments had already been happening and that kind of stuff, and that's when the solo lane kind of became a thing. Before that, it was very 2-1-2 in the laning phase. Was it pretty early when solo lane was starting to be established that you moved over to that role?
If I remember correctly, it was during that point, maybe a little few months after, like solo lane was actually a thing. That it became a solo laner. Because
Hmm.
I do remember playing like Herc solo in tournaments, like very early on.
Yep. The Herc solo was big back in the OG solo days. The first big team that I've got on your Smite wiki here. No disrespect, of course, to Last Resort and Clash and Slash, but Fat Chunks was the first team that really I think people started to recognize your name, and a lot of players on that team. Aurora, of course, a big part of that squad. But I'm looking at this roster, and there were a whole lot of players during different times. Do you remember which five you were playing with on that Fat Chunks team?
I think it was Unique, Sam Shrew, Aurora, and Herwin. Was the five that we actually played in the SPL part of it.
Hmm.
I think we had a bunch of filler players for like the relegations part because at one point my computer just blew up, so we had to use a. So like I think Shaywaz had a sub in for that tournament, and I had to play on a laptop as soon as I was like actually able to play again.
Hmm. What? So that was when you pretty much immediately started to try and compete in the SPL. Were your parents like down with you putting this much time into the game to try and do this as at least at that point probably not a full time job, but a source of income for you? Were they supportive of that?
Yeah, they were pretty supportive of it. I think they saw it as a hobby at first because Smite wasn't like that lucrative yet because it was only like that one tournament, the first super regionals. That was like the first
Hmm.
tournament I've ever gone to. So yeah,
Was it with that Fat Chunks team? Was that at the
yeah.
regionals land? What was that experience like? Traveling over to the East Coast in order to play it on land. Was it what you expected?
It was pretty fun. There were some nerves originally since there was a crowd at super regionals, but that kind of got lost as soon as you start playing.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly. I remember watching that land, but of course didn't get a chance to come down and do it. So you play with Fat Chunks. It's listed here from October to December of 2014. So pretty short run in the SPL, just fall split for that squad. And then the next year, you join Complexity, which then became Melior Morior, which then became AFK, which then became Envy. But the iconic team that I think everyone thinks of when they think of early dominant North American SPL teams, your five of you, Incon, Weekend, Allied, Kiki really comes to mind. Do you remember how that team got formed in the first place?
Well, that team originally was like the Snipe and Complexity team that had Shing and Khan, Jerby, Kiki, and Allied. Then Shing left for Dig to be their solo winner. They picked up Waken. And then after that first season, I think it is it season one or season. I think it was season one.
Yeah.
Yeah, after Worlds happened, they didn't make it. All that they put a tournament, and then they decided to kick Jerby because I think they lost in that tournament. I don't remember the actual reason. There was like a bunch of reasons why they wanted to kick him, and they asked me to
Sure.
play solo lane. Or Kiki thought of the idea to put me in solo lane and swap to mid lane.
Were you? I'm guessing you. I mean, you were friends with Kiki, kind of leading up to that.
Yeah, I knew
Yeah.
Kiki through through Roar's Mumble, and we
Sure.
hung out a bit.
Sure. Did that team click instantly? Did you guys feel like you had potential to be really nuts right away, or do you remember some early growing pains for that squad?
I don't remember anything like actually bad in the early times. We actually kind of meshed pretty well together. I think we finished second that first split, and then won the tournament.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say you guys meshed pretty well together right away. Uh, that was, I mean, what? So that would have been what? Early season two. During that time, of course, in season two, everyone talks about that your dominant run that you had in solo lane and weekend camping CycloneSpin solo lane. What was that like playing through that time, going in knowing that all the talk around that set would likely revolve around what you and Weekend were doing on your side of the map?
I don't think I actually paid that much attention to it. My ego was definitely like ginormous by that time, but I don't think I ever paid that much attention to like the actual outside people's thoughts on it.
Sure. So when you say your ego was pretty ginormous at the time, I had down, I wanted to ask you, did you buy into the idea that you were the best player in the world at that time?
Um, I would say no, but I would actually act like it though. Yeah.
Sure. Sure, absolutely. I understand what you mean. Um, that team, obviously, a ton of hype around that squad. I mean, you guys were killing it all regular season. It comes to Super Regionals time. I don't think anyone expects anything but a pretty dominant performance from you guys at that Super Regionals. For our newer fans who might be watching, Super Regionals was placements back in the day. It's how you qualified to get into the World Championships. But you guys obviously have a bit of a rough week that week and end up not qualifying. Do you remember how well do you remember that week of Super Regionals?
Not very well. I know what happened after we lost like to enemy,
Yeah,
but I don't actually remember leading up to it that much. I just know we had a rule swap because we didn't feel like Incon was performing well enough in support. So Kiki came up with the idea of like, swapping roles with him so we can try to preserve the actual team instead of making a roster change itself, and it didn't actually work.
do you remember what point did you go into that land even with that role swap feeling confident that you were still going to qualify to Worlds, or did you feel like you were unsure that you thought there was a chance you wouldn't qualify?
We were super confident because we watched TSM get knocked out by enemy, and we are like, this will be like the freest whenever into free worlds, but it didn't happen like that.
No, it did not. That enemy team turned out to be a lot better than a lot of people expected. I don't think you were the only ones to underestimate that squad. What happened immediately afterwards? After you guys lose at that Super Regionals, you fail to qualify for Worlds. What was that conversation like, and how did you guys decide that you wanted to compete at the Xbox Open bracket at that time?
It was pretty heated because we just lost our chance at Worlds, a lot
Sure.
of the accolades and the money.
Hmm.
We just decided Xbox was kind of just there. We can just go in and try to make free money, basically. So we decided to go
Yeah.
to Xbox. We all decided we wanted to play it, except for Incon, who didn't want to play it. So we asked Omega, who didn't make Worlds, if he wanted to play with
Hmm.
us, and he said, yeah. That's just kind of how our Xbox team got formed.
And that was your first opportunity to preview what would happen later on in your career. You kind of move over to Hunter in order to make some room for Omega. I know the narrative around that move over to Xbox is that you guys came over, instantly destroyed everyone, and that was the end of story, which is true. You did come over, instantly destroy everyone, and that was it. But I don't think that you guys or the public knows how much you guys scrimmed, and I know from firsthand experience because you dominated my team in scrims pretty often. I mean, I felt like from a different Xbox team at the time's perspective, you guys were practicing pretty, not 5 days a week or anything like that, but you guys put some real effort into trying to win.
Yeah, we scrimmed almost every day. We played a lot for like the 1 month we started playing Xbox Smite. We were really trying to grind it so we can try to win.
I think it paid off for you for sure. I don't know if you remember it, but I remember our match very well at in the open bracket. We tried to cheese you guys by going Isis Odin, and we were just going to do objectives as soon as they came up, and we were going to try to never fight you at all. And we were doing pretty well. Game 1, at the very least, we had like a 4 or 5k lead, and then Allied hit a 3-man Kukulkan ult on left mid Harpies, wiped our whole team, and we instant lost after that. But I still maintain that I think that was the most competitive match you guys had at that Worlds run. Do you remember what that Worlds run was like for you guys whenever you played actually at Cobb?
No. All I remember from it is that I played X-Ball and Kyron almost every game. In the finals, I think I played against Paul.
Yep.
When Paul was on
you
Xbox.
Did. Yep. You played against Paul. What was it? Paul, Freya, Shing, Soup Kitchen.
Yeah, that's.
I can never remember their fifth.
Yeah, I just know Paul was on that team.
Yep, he was. He was their mid laner for them at the time, but maybe he actually played Hunter at that time.
I think it was the Hunter. I remember him just playing Hoagie.
Yeah, sure I think he was the Hunter. I think he was the Hunter at that time. You're right. He moved to mid next season after that, but
dominated the minor league on Hebo Hell.
Yep, just started popping off on all those sorts of picks. Were you guys, I mean, obviously you had aspirations to winning PC Worlds that year, but do you think that winning that Xbox Invitational like helped soften the blow? Did you guys feel good about winning that tournament?
I think me, Allied, and Kiki, it was like whatever. It was like a consolation. Like Weekend and Omega liked it a lot winning that, but I was just like kind of whatever. It was just kind of there. It's not like PC Worlds, like the big main thing we strive for all year.
Yeah, absolutely. It was. Hey, still a championship win though. Open bracket, all that kind of stuff. That argument has happened, but you guys won Worlds that year on Xbox for sure. How much did you like playing Hunter in that moment? Were you upset to go back to solo after that? Did you feel like you wanted to move to Hunter?
I guess it was kind of fun. I wanted to lane with Kiki during Xbox. And we picked up Omega, so we just said, yeah, you can go solo lane, and now I can just go play mid. I didn't actually return to solo for like a little bit, if I remember, because there was that entire disastrous NV first phase team where we had like a roster swap like every week. So I think, and I kind of played almost every role basically at that point.
Yeah, I guess that's true. What I was going to ask you about that disastrous split. Was that tough to keep motivated and keep wanting to play whenever you guys had so many roster changes and the big drama with the F6 and all that kind of stuff? What was that kind of split like for you?
I think it was just like a split. They were just trying to salvage like what's left because everyone would just keep leaving after a set loss. Like Omega left after, I think he left after that source set, maybe. I know Snoopy left after that source set. Omega, I think, just retired basically, so we just had to keep replacing people, getting new players every single time, and just try to make do with that.
Yeah, it's funny that I'm looking at your Smite wiki right here, and it's like November to January Hunter, January to April Hunter, but April to May solo, May to July jungler, July to November warrior. And then it goes from Envy to Team Allegiance, where you end up trying to make a run there with that team. What was that ALG experience like? Because I think a lot of people don't remember how unlikely and improbable and impressive that run that you guys made on that ALG roster was?
It was pretty good leading up to super regionals because since we're like a new team, there's that honeymoon phase where you're not really arguing with each other. You're just kind of getting along. You're kind of meshing well together. That's just kind of how it was. Up to Worlds, it was kind of rough. There was a lot of tension between the team.
Mm. I think you guys still had an okay performance at Worlds, though. A couple
Well, I wouldn't
losses that
say
will live.
wouldn't say okay. It was kind of terrible actually.
Yeah, hey, you're at Worlds at least. Having losses on the world stage is better than not playing at all, I suppose. But of course, the first SPL team to lose to a Latin American team at the time, though they did have Shinto, so
Yeah,
I mean,
Shinto was just too good apparently. Just countered
should have
me in
known.
season 3.
We should have known all along. So see, you go on to play with this Splice roster. Obviously, that is going to be a huge part of your career and the story whenever it's all said and done of it. What was that team like? Because you moved to Hunter, and I remember that spring split. It was a little bit rough for you playing Hunter on that West Coast. You guys were experimenting with things like Bologna ADC. Made me think you were missing the solo lane. What was early days of Splice like?
Um, it was kind of basically the same throughout the year. There was a lot of tension and arguing. We were kind of dysfunctional, so like the entire year basically. It was kind of incredible. We managed to stay together for like the entire year.
Yeah, you guys did stay together for the most part. The one roster change, of course, being getting Moswall there in the mid lane for you. But everyone thinks about that turnaround really being you guys moving in and staying at Kabam's family's place in the beach on the right on the East Coast. Do you agree that was like the turning point for you guys? It felt like not only did you guys start playing better mechanically, but it seemed like you guys got all much more on the same page after that.
Yeah, I think it was a like huge deal. For me, it was pretty big because I got to play on like actual good ping. I think I went from like 120 to 130 every game to like 30 to 40 ping in SPL games, which is like a massive difference. We all had to like spend time together. We hung out together. We played games together, which really improved our chemistry.
Were your parents excited for you to get an opportunity to move to the East Coast for a couple weeks, or were they a little bit hesitant on it?
I don't think they were hesitant. I think they just let it happen. I think I was in college at the time, so I had to basically switch to
Mm.
online classes during that time.
I didn't know that you were in college at the time. What was your major?
Computer science.
Cool. And are you still doing those online classes? Have you completed? Are you putting it off for now? Where are you at on that?
I had to take a break because I can't really complete everything online. They didn't. My community college basically didn't offer everything for me to do online, so there's nothing left for me to do online right now.
Fair enough. And you guys are kind of killing it right now. Well, killing it overall, I'd say, but you're on the up and up. We're just talking after you guys got a big win to stop the losing streak. So I'm correct at least a little bit in saying that. So we're still talking about Splice. You guys moved to the beach house. You guys then go back to where you were. You're back on 120, 130 ping. But I think it says a lot that you guys were still playing a lot better. The narrative around that Splice team was that you guys were bad all the way up until fall split, but summer split you guys nearly qualified to go to LAN. We're 1 or 2 games short. You went from the worst team in NA spring split to almost qualifying in summer split to being the top seed in fall split. But I think some people weren't convinced about how good you guys were going into Worlds. Were you convinced that you had a real shot to win? How likely did you think that was?
I think it was we had a very good shot. I think the only team I wasn't very confident in beating was United because we scrimmed them basically exclusively all the way up to Worlds, and they kind of like destroyed us almost every single time. We had our start, our 3-man dueling start that we played only with them, so
Yep.
only us two knew about the start. Yeah, so we were basically just very confident against every other team. since we got to watch every team play in like the qualifier.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And you guys took a strategy that really started at that qualifier of the Fenrir aggressive support, and Aurora kind of perfected that almost. I mean, you guys dominated Obey in your quarterfinal set. I remember all the EU players being like, "What? We thought Obey was going to be like so good. I can't believe Splice like did that to them." But no way they do it against Dig in the semifinal, right? Like no chance that happens. And then you guys 3-0 Dig in the semifinals, but at least those games were all pretty close. Ended up being some pretty close contests in the
Uh,
semifinals, right?
I actually think the Obey set was like way closer. I thought Dig was like the easiest team we played at that Worlds, honestly.
Hmm. I guess thinking back a little bit more closely, Dig had one game where they like almost ended and Aurora chased them off the Titan. But other than
Yeah,
that,
the other
I think
games
that
weren't
was
actually that close. The other games weren't actually
yeah,
that close.
yeah, that's fair. And with only two games in the quarterfinals, I think both of those were closer than the remaining two games against Dig. So I suppose that does make sense. You guys, your confidence must have been through the roof going into finals, having not dropped a game the entire Worlds up until that point.
Uh, it was pretty good, but Rival also didn't drop a single game up until that. So, and we knew they were going to be like way better than both the teams we played, and they were until game five, of course, because they kind of exploded there, but they were like very, very rough.
Do you remember what you were thinking and what you guys were talking about when you finished Game Five's draft and you got pretty much everything
Oh,
you wanted?
yeah, the game was basically over when they gave us Freya, because in my opinion, she was like by far the strongest character in Smite at that point. And
Yep.
then we got Opwash, I believe. We got a
Mm-hmm.
Merc bottom pick. Like we got Terra, which we wanted Terra and Geb almost the entire tournament. I think we got Fenrir as well. We
Mm-hmm.
basically just got everything, and I
Yeah,
didn't really
that
get
has to be
why.
the best feeling, man. To know that like they just gave us our one of our best drafts we could ever have. Like it must have felt great to know that it's basically over in that moment. You got. I think that. I mean, Sino obviously very deserving. Everyone who wins an MVP at Worlds is deserving, but every person on the team is also pretty deserving of that. I thought you were runner up in my mind to that MVP trophy. Did you feel like you had a real shot to win it? Were you surprised when Sino got it?
I don't actually really care if whoever won it, because we won. That's basically the actual goal. Whoever wins the MVP, congrats to them. It's just an extra
Sure.
award.
Sure, fair enough. I think a lot of people in the community. I mean, we play the you guys winning worlds as part of our bumper videos all the time on the SPL broadcast, and we see a roar and just no one has more emotion than a roar ever about like anything. I feel like, and then you're just kind of like you're chilling, you're smiling, but you're definitely not as over the top emotive as Aurora was. So people think that it might not have meant as much to you, but I imagine that's not the case. That's just kind of the way you reacted in the moment.
Yeah, that's just kind of how I am. I don't really, express my emotions that much.
How did it feel though to win worlds and do the thing that you've been trying to do your whole SPL career since season one?
It was like a giant lift off my shoulder. I don't think I ever explicitly, expressed like how happy I was. It just kind of was like, yeah, that was great, and now, I just move on with my life at that point.
And now it's time to do it again, right? I guess that's the mentality. Going into this year, you join up with this Radiant squad that everyone is talking about as a super team, but big talent, but big ego was kind of the moniker that a lot of people gave this team. How did you view that assessment of your team? Do you think that it was a little bit overhyped or what?
The ego part, I think, is the dumbest thing like I've ever heard of. The super team itself, I also think, is really dumb. I don't like super teams don't actually exist. I think it's just like some
Sure.
narrative that the community brings up, just as a talking point to set like a team up on a pedestal, just to hope that they can surpass their expectations. But that's like a really tall order for like anybody just
Mm-hmm.
to keep up those expectations.
Definitely, no doubt. It's your first time playing with a couple of EU guys as well. I mean, you're joined up now with Adapting and Big Man Tings. What's it been like playing with Adapting, a guy who I'm sure everyone has thought of as one of he is the most successful Smite player of all time. I feel like what has it been like, kind of teaming with a guy like him?
It's been very interesting. Like the entire year has been interesting, honestly.
Yeah.
Playing and learning like how they play, because it's like a complete different idea of what I thought they would be playing like from previous years that I played them in.
What do you, if you can, what do you mean by that? What did you think they were going to be playing like, and how is it a little bit different?
I don't really want to like share because that's like
Sure.
more Smite gameplay related.
Sure, fair enough. Totally understand. Earlier on, you said your ego during season 2 was pretty big. How do you think you as a player and your mentality has changed from season 2 until now?
I just kind of exist now, honestly. I kind of just stand there and just watch people. I let other people, talk me up, but I actually just don't, talk about it that often.
Sure, fair enough. And I also had to ask you about you and Aurora. You guys have been a package deal these last few years. What is it like playing with Aurora, and why do you think you two mesh so well together?
Playing with Aurora is like a roller coaster of emotions, basically. It's a very interesting, it's just very interesting, basically, when you're playing with Aurora in scrims and SPL. Yeah.
He's gonna do his thing.
Yeah, we meshed together because I'm pretty sure it's just because we just play together a lot, basically.
Yeah.
And I think it's my 3rd year now playing with them, so I hope we mesh together at some point.
I think it's fair to say you guys have. It's been a pretty good run for you guys as a duo lane. Looking past, whenever it's time for Smite to be all wrapped up and you're moving on with your life, what are you looking to do? Have you given it any thought? Are you going to go back and do the computer science degree? Do you know what you want to do with that degree whenever that time comes?
I know my parents want me to finish college, so I will do that after Smite's all done. But I don't actually know what I want to do. I never actually gave a thought about it. It's like very, I don't know. I just don't know what I want to do after. I just kind of do things in the moment right now.
Absolutely. You got more Smite World Championships to win, man. No need to worry about anything else. Cyclone, thanks very much for the time, man. Appreciate you sitting down and talking with us. Before we let you go, you got any shout-outs or anything you want to give?
Shout-outs to my parents for being very supportive of what I do. They let me, move over here to the East Coast for the 2nd year in a row now. Shout-outs to Radiance. They've been an amazing org, very supportive. And they're Hi's a great person, and I loved having him as my owner. Yeah.
Dude, Hi being in Smite, super cool, man. Super cool to see. Appreciate the time again. Thanks everyone for watching as well. Make sure you guys are subscribing to the SMITEPro YouTube and throwing a like on the video. Of course, we got to ask for that where you are on YouTube. That's the rules. And put in the comments down below who you want to see next on Player Spotlight. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.